All right, guys, so it's been a while since I've covered a bad Joy Reid take, right? That used to be a regular on my channel, covering Joy Reid say nonsense. And she has, once again, put out some nonsense. That is probably one of the worst takes that I've seen about this Ukraine-Russia crisis. So with that being said, I want to talk about it today, but before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know, if you like my commentary, you like my channel, you want to support my channel, you can do so using the links in the description below. You can support the Patreon, you can support the PayPal, you can support the merch. There are multiple ways to support the channel if you would like to do so, including get yourself one of these signature racist mugs, which is a daily reminder of the 2022 definition of racist according to the left, which is basically anybody that disagrees with the Democrat Party. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into Joy Reid's take here, in which she argues that the only reason people care about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia is because it is affecting white Christian people. Take a look.
As the world watches the devastation unfold in Ukraine, nearly 4,000 miles away, another crisis is deepening that we don't hear much about in the U.S., and that is the war in Yemen. In March of 2015, a Saudi-led coalition backed by the United States intervened militarily in Yemen in a bid to fight Iran-backed Houthi rebels. It has triggered one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world due to widespread hunger, disease, and attacks on civilians. 4 million Yemenis have been forced to flee their homes. Now, what we're seeing in Ukraine is absolutely the worst humanitarian crisis that Europe has seen in decades. But we haven't witnessed the same type of solidarity for the Yemenis as we do for the Ukrainians. We don't see historic sanctions or global campaigns, corporations like Airbnb and Netflix taking a stand. And this is not to say that we shouldn't care this much for Ukraine. Far from it. The point is, we should also care this much for refugees and those facing occupation and war in the Middle East and Asia and Africa, too. The coverage of Ukraine has revealed a pretty radical disparity in how human Ukrainians look and feel to Western media compared to their browner and blacker counterparts, with some reporters using very telling comparisons in their analyses of the war.
It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed, children being killed every day with Putin's missiles.
The unthinkable has happened to them. And this is not a developing third world nation. This is Europe.
This isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
Civilized. Okay, let's face it. The world is paying attention because this is happening in Europe. If this was happening anywhere else, would we see the same outpouring of support and compassion? Well, we don't need to ask ourselves if the international response would be the same if Russia unleashed their horror on a country that wasn't white and largely Christian, because Russia has already done it in Syria. This is a teachable moment for us in the media. We aren't afraid to call out our own industry. There is a lot of soul searching that we need to do in Western media about why some wars and lives seem to matter more than others, and why some refugees get the welcome mat while others get the wall. And that is tonight's Readout, All In with Chris Hayes. Starts right now.
Yeah, so this is an example of Joy Reid just obviously blatantly race baiting here, okay? I mean, like, come on. Joy Reid, you're smart enough to know the difference in regards to the implications with the war in Syria versus what's going on in Ukraine. The war in Syria and Yemen, okay, and all these other places she's talking about, don't have the potential to start World War III, okay? It's very simple. What's going on there does not have the potential to start World War III like what is going on in Ukraine, right? What is going on in Ukraine potentially could start World War III, right? That explains most of the disparity in coverage, okay? But no. Can't be that, according to Joy Reid, right? She didn't even speculate maybe that could be it. No. It has to be race, right? It has to be religion. It's because they're white and Christian. That's why the world cares about them, okay? But let me clue people in on how this actually works, okay? Because when it comes to what people care about when they choose not to care about, a lot of people care about what could potentially affect them, right? And World War III could potentially affect America. War in Russia could potentially affect America. What's going on in Yemen, as bad as it is, that ain't really going to affect Americans at home. Okay, that's not really going to affect us all that much. And the mainstream media, people like Joy Reid, they don't really want you to know about what's happening in Yemen because it's not a particularly good look for America, right? When the American people know that, hey, you know, we are fighting wars on behalf of Saudi Arabia. Okay, we're backing their war over there, which is causing a humanitarian crisis, right? Don't look good for us, right, when people know about that. That is why people are not talking about that, okay? But I guarantee you, if it was something that was in the interest of America, people would know about it. For example, if Iran decided that, hey, they want to invade Saudi Arabia, I guarantee you there'd be a whole lot of propaganda in support of Saudi Arabia, talking about how bad it is that Iran is invading Saudi Arabia. And we will be very focused on that because of oil, right? Oil, resources. The fact that Saudi Arabia is a strategic military ally, right? If China attacked Taiwan, you best believe there'll be a whole lot of coverage on those, I don't know if you call them black and brown people in Taiwan. They're not really black or brown, but they throw them in there sometimes, right? Or who knows? Asians are white sometimes, according to the wokes. I don't really know, but there'll be a whole lot of focus on those Asian folks over there and what they're going through. There'll be a whole lot of focus on it. Anytime a U.S. ally gets attacked, we focus on it. That's why we focus on what's going on in Israel, right? Those people aren't exactly white, right? They ain't pasty white. They ain't European white. They might be Middle Eastern white, but they ain't European white. But every time something happens with them and the Palestinians, guess what? The American mainstream media is paying attention to it, even though something happens there every 3 or 4 years and it's the same thing. So I want people to understand that, you know, in terms of what the American mainstream media cares about, a lot of it just happens to be in the interest of the military industrial complex or just the image of America in general. Okay. And right now, the new programming is that, hey, you know what? You guys got to go out there and wave these Ukrainian flags and support Ukraine. Right. And that's the new thing. Right. We got to care about this. OK, that's just what it is, because it's in the best interest of America. OK, for people to care about this stuff. And that is ultimately how you manufacture consent and get more people on board with possibly escalating conflict with Russia. OK, and potentially putting American lives at risk. This is why you have people in Michigan openly out here protesting with Ukrainian flags to have a no-fly zone, which essentially would start World War III. Right? It's really that simple. It's really that simple. But again, what I find to be ironic here and fascinating is that Joy Reid, just like she did with the missing white girl syndrome thing, when she came out here and played up the race card with that, she is a part of the problem because she's a part of the mainstream corporate media that she's complaining about. And I haven't seen Joy Reid out here doing takes on what's going on in Yemen all that much. She ain't talking about that. She talks about January 6th all day long, every single day. But she won't talk about what's going on in Yemen every single day. She ain't talking about what's going on with the Uyghurs in China, right? So for somebody that's up here complaining about how the media doesn't talk enough about black and brown people, she's not covering all the bad things that are happening to black and brown people around the world. Again, she's not talking about the Uyghurs. We know we seen Joy Reid talk about the Uyghurs, okay? She talks about January 6th, but she talks about all these other humanitarian crises going on around the world. January 6th is not a humanitarian crisis, right? It's not. But she talks about it every single day like it's one. Again, I also find it funny how a lot of these people are getting so butthurt and offended because you have reporters and people out here just openly saying like, hey, there's a lot of white, blue-eyed, blonde-haired people dying. It's bad. White bodies this, white bodies that. And they're pissed. They're like, oh, see, they're open about it. They're openly telling you, hey, we care because these people are white. Okay? And I'm like, well, hold on now. Ain't y'all the same people that just spent a whole 2 years telling us about the importance of black and brown bodies? Right? Everything I heard every single day was black and brown this, black and brown that. We still hearing it every single day. Black and brown bodies, right? I mean, we had a whole movement about Black Lives Matter, okay? So now all of a sudden, when white people come out here and say, hey, look, these white lives, right, these white bodies, right, they matter. Oh, all of a sudden, that's wrong. You can't say that. That's overt racism. But when you come out here and talk about the importance of black and brown bodies and black and brown bodies this, black and brown bodies that, that's totally fine. That's totally fair game. Totally fair game. Social justice is what they call it, right? It's called social justice. So again, I think that Joy Reid here, she's not the one to really talk because she is a part of the problem that she's complaining about. Again, just like with the whole missing white girl syndrome thing, she complained about how black girls don't get enough coverage in the media, but yet proceeded to not cover any black women that have gone missing. Okay, she hasn't talked about that at all, right? And she's a black woman with a platform in which she could easily cover this stuff, right? Even if it's just a little, 15-second commercial or whatever saying, hey, this person's going missing. She can do that every single program, but she's not doing it because she really doesn't give a damn. She's more concerned about stirring up racial hatred and bigotry, okay, than she is about so-called social justice, okay? That's what she's more concerned about. She doesn't give a damn about what's going on in Yemen or the Uyghurs or any of that stuff. She's just using them as a way to compare the attention that they're getting versus the attention that the Ukrainians are getting to say, hey, listen, those white people, you see how much attention they're getting, right? It's because they're white, right? They only care about white folks. Y'all see that? Again, this stuff, man, it's just blatantly obvious to me what Joy Reid's whole angle is. And I'm just so surprised that despite her ratings just being so terrible and nobody watching her, the MSNBC still has her on the show. I mean, it really blows my mind. It really does. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.